Welcome back to the Muay Thai Nutrition Podcast. In this video episode, I'm going to talk about how to make dieting suck less. Let's be frank, nobody likes being in a calorie deficit. To some degree, dieting is always going to be harder than not dieting. But the difference between a diet which is a mild amount of stress versus one which pretty much takes all happiness from you is huge. And there are a few strategies you can implement to reduce the negative impacts of dieting, make it a lot more sustainable, and really make it feel, comparatively easy in relation to perhaps other diets you've done in the past where maybe you haven't used these strategies. And so what I'm going to do is walk you through 5 strategies that we can use to make dieting a hell of a lot easier. And this can be applied to fight camps, having to lose body fat as a part of the weight making process, or it can simply be applied to just a fat loss phase if you're just looking to lean up and improve your body composition a little bit. Before we jump in, if you haven't filled in the questionnaire in my Instagram bio to get your personal fight and nutrition report, then do it. Basically, you'll just answer 16 short questions. You'll get a personalized report. Through these 16 questions, you'll be scored on 4 key areas that commonly sabotage our dieting attempts, which are food environment, lifestyle, appetite management, and long-term strategy. In addition to knowing which is your priority area that needs addressing, you'll also be provided with concrete action points specific to this priority. So you'll know exactly what you need to do today to overcome the roadblocks that have halted your progress in the past. If you combine that information with the content in today's podcast, then you'll have an entirely new approach to dieting and entirely new results. Also, an obligatory plug for my Fight and Nutrition course and one-to-one nutrition coaching. If you're interested in taking the next step and you're serious about improving your nutrition, consider both of these options. You can go to the link in my Instagram bio or jamesnicholnutrition.com to read more about either of those. Anyway, let's jump into the content for today's episode. So the first strategy is your rate of weight loss. So the speed at which you are losing weight, the amount of weight you are aiming to lose each week. Ideally, this would be between 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. Slower than this, it's going to be hard to stay motivated because progress is going to be so slow. But faster than this, you're going to be so hungry and your calories are going to have to be so low that dieting is going to suck, basically. For most people, 0.5% is going to be ideal, especially if you're listening to the podcast. If you have a lot of weight to lose, then you could go more towards the 1% side of things. But as a starting recommendation, 0.5% of your body weight per week would be recommended. Especially if you've dieted in the past and you really struggle with hunger, start with 0.5%. If you have to make weight, so you've got an agreed fight date and weight class, you have to be that weight on that date or you're not going to be able to fight. And you're having to lose more than 1% of your body weight per week, so 0.7 kilograms per week if you're 70 kilograms, 0.6 if you're 60 kilograms, you get the idea. These are 3 things that you can change next time to make your weight cut suck less, because if you've already agreed the weight class and you've already agreed with the promoter what promotion you'll be fighting on, then you can't really do much to change that. You've simply got to make weight. But these 3 things that you can do next time to make your weight cut more tolerable. 1, begin the diet earlier. If you have a longer timeline to lose the same amount of weight, then you have to lose less weight per week. Manage your post-fight nutrition better. This could mean hiring a nutritionist or simply having some form of structure or plan after the fight. Most people simply have no plan at all after the fight, and that is why body fat will be regained rapidly and often beyond where they began the fight camp at. Or you could fight at a higher weight class. Now, not many people are going to take that advice, but it is certainly an option. So firstly, summary, rate of weight loss. Most of you listening to this podcast aim for 0.5% body weight loss per week. Number 2, volume is your friend, food volume. This means having a large amount of food for relatively low calories. So it's about the caloric density of foods. This can mean choosing lower fat items. Because fat is calorie dense, it has a lot of calories, but it's not particularly high in volume. Choosing lower fat items mean you can consume more food volume for fewer calories. This can mean swapping full-fat dairy, so full-fat yogurt, full-fat milk for low or 0% fat. Could mean swapping higher fat cuts of meat, so swapping chicken thigh for chicken breast, for example. swapping higher fat steaks for leaner steaks, or for beef mince, 10% to 5% fat, swapping eggs for egg whites, or, if you normally have 3 eggs, maybe 1 egg and some egg whites to top it up as well. These are all reducing the calorie content, but keeping the volume of food similar. Also, eat your fruits and vegetables. They are low calorie and high volume. Basically, it's a case of eating like an adult. Eat your fruits and veggies, be a grown up. Number 3 is to preload. And this sort of follows on from the volume thing. This is related to volumes, to preload your meals with something that is high in water or fiber or both, and low in calories. So basically something high volume. What this means is, instead of just, okay, you have a meal time, you go and you eat your meal and that's it. This means before that meal, it could be as simple as a large glass of water, maybe a pint of water. It could be having a low calorie soup, so like a vegetable soup or a broth based soup that is high volume, low calorie. Could be having some high water vegetables, things like cucumber, tomatoes, or high fiber veggies like broccoli. What these are going to do is they're going to take up space in your stomach, and having the sort of stretch receptors in your stomach are one of the signals for us to stop eating. We also know that it takes time for our body to register fullness as well. So if you, rather than just jumping straight into your meal, so it takes you 15 minutes to eat it or 20 minutes to eat it, by the end of that meal, you're not really, those sort of satiety, the fullness signals are only just starting to creep in. So it's certainly possible that you might have consumed an adequate amount of calories, but you're still feeling relatively hungry because you've eaten too quickly. Having this preload, so having something high volume, low calorie before the meal, isn't going to add much calories, and it's going to mean that those fullness signals are setting in halfway through your actual meal. And it's going to mean it's a lot easier to end the meal and feel content rather than ending the meal hungry. Next is consider lowering your meal frequency if you're finding yourself unprepared. Actually, having less meals in the day are less chances to mess things up because you're unprepared. If you've got 6 meals planned in the day, or a combination of 3 meals and 3 snacks, that's 6 things you have to prepare. And they might not all necessarily be cooking something from scratch, but it's still 6 times you've got to think about food. You've got to make sure you have it stocked up in the house, and it's just more chance for things to go wrong. My starting recommendation tends to be 3 to 5 meals or feedings per day, meals and snacks, is my starting recommendation. So if you're struggling with lack of preparation or struggling with hunger, perhaps more towards the side of 3 meals per day. As an absolute minimum, 2 balanced meals, protein, fruit or vegetables, carbohydrates, healthy fats, and a protein shake. So 3 total feedings per day, but one of those could be a protein shake, would be my absolute minimum. Otherwise, if you go much below that, it might be a struggle to hit your protein needs and your micronutrient needs. If you're doing something like 1 meal a day, it's going to be very hard to consume enough vegetables to hit your micronutrient needs and to get your total protein needs in 1 meal a day. It's just not going to happen, basically. And having fewer meals, so 3 compared to 6, for example, it's going to allow for larger meals per day, or more socially acceptably sized meals. The trade-off is that between those meals, because rather than having 6 meals every couple of hours, you're having 3 meals maybe every 5 to 6 hours. So you're going to be hungrier between meals, potentially, but you'll be more satisfied after the meals because they are larger. So it's a trade-off. If you think that trade-off is worth it for you, then consider it. So just a quick summary of the 4 strategies that I've covered up to now. Rate of weight loss, ideally 0.5% per week, not more than 1% of your body weight per week. Volume is your friend. This means lower fat items and plenty of fruits and vegetables. 3, consider a vegetable or fluid preload, water, soup, cucumber, tomatoes, broccoli, something like that before your meal. And 4, the last one, consider lowering meal frequency if you find yourself unprepared. Now, one final point that I'm going to go through, the 5th point, is more strategy related and is more psychology related rather than specific food one. So the 5th point is to have a clear goal and end date, and or diet breaks planned in along the way. So you need to know where you want to go. If you're just going to diet until some arbitrary goal, until you feel happy, then you're never going to reach that point. So you need to set yourself a concrete goal and have a plan to get to that goal. It's, how many times have you heard someone say, oh yeah, I'm trying to eat healthier at the moment? Just trying to eat healthier never made any lasting changes for anyone. So do away with that. Know where you want to go. Be specific about things. And as well as that, having something to look forward to is such a powerful motivator. If you're just trying to eat healthier and, you've got, for example, you go to a social occasion and you offer something. If you're trying to eat healthier, there's no end point in there. But if you know, okay, you've got a diet break in 2 weeks, or you're half a kilogram away from your goal, the end point is in sight. That it's not far away, and it can be a powerful motivator and a reason to stick to your diet and adhere to your diet a little bit better. And we know that adhering to a diet, sticking to a diet, is the most important factor for achieving your diet goals. It also creates a sense of urgency as well. If you've got no end date in mind, then there's no urgency and you'll just keep putting things off. And that is why just trying to eat healthier never really works. Having a plan is the most important thing. It almost doesn't necessarily matter what your plan is to a certain degree, but having a plan is hugely important and is going to massively increase your chances of success. That's why people hire, nutritionists or fitness influencers who maybe really don't know anything about nutrition. But the fact that they have that accountability, they've got that financial buy-in, and they've got a plan, regardless of how evidence-based that plan is, and that alone can improve your chances of success. Whenever you're trying to achieve anything, especially fitness related, things will come along that are going to threaten your adherence to the plan. Holidays, social events, and birthdays. So if you factor these occasions into your plan by allowing greater flexibility, so you could say, okay, I'm going to plan in a non-tracked day here. I'm going to plan in a diet break for this week when I'm away. I'm going to plan in a refeed for this weekend trip. I'm going to plan in a few days tracking, but just at maintenance intake. Then it's a win-win because you've not sacrificed your social health. You've still been able to go to the event and enjoy it, but you've also stuck to the plan because you factored in these occasions and you've not, taken steps back. You've held your ground so that you're picking up where you left off rather than taking steps back and then spending the next few days or even weeks sort of clawing back to your starting point. So, final summary. To make dieting suck less, make sure your rate of weight loss is ideally 0.5% per week of your body weight and not more than 1%. Focus on high volume foods. Consider a preload before your meals with something high in water or fiber, such as vegetables, water, or soup. Consider lowering your meal frequency if you're constantly finding yourself unprepared, and have a clear goal and end date in mind and plan in diet breaks along the way. As I mentioned at the beginning, don't forget to get your free Fighting Nutrition report at the link in my Instagram bio. Also, consider my Fighting Nutrition course or one-to-one nutrition coaching if you're looking to take things a step further. That's it for today. Catch you in the next one.